When you look at him, you think of me.
Yes, ma'am.
SJ, you're going to want to get this.
Someday we'll live our lives out.
Mike's the best left tackle I've seen in years.
Better off somehow, someday.
You're changing that boy's life. No, he's changing mine.
Tired of it. You know, he's 29 years old and they're wanting him to talk about when he was 16. You know, he's been through a Super Bowl. He thinks that's probably more interesting than a movie that's been out for 7 years.
Sean and Leanne Toohey dismissing comments that their adopted son, Michael Oher, the subject of The Blind Side, hates the Oscar-winning movie.
A lot of people that will pull something negative out, but the message of the movie is continued to this day to make a difference in the lives of so many people. And for that, we're very humbled.
But, you know, doesn't mean that Michael needs to talk about it.
Biggest for me is, you know, being portrayed not being able to read or write. Second grade, I was doing plays in front of the school. And I think that's one of the, when you go into a locker room and your teammates don't think you can learn a playbook, you know, that weighs heavy on someone. You know, and you have to understand, I understand that the movie has given me a position. I'm honored to have the position it's given me, but, you know, you have to understand, before I moved in with the family, I was an All-American.
Warning, the following program contains extreme coarse language and mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is extremely advised. How's it going? It's ADC. It's Talking Truth Thursday. Thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe across the board, and share with your friends. We're going to have a deep conversation. We are in the Talking Truth Towers, high above the Game Changers Canada offices here in beautiful, no, amazing, no, interesting Alberta, Canada. Anyway, enough with the jokes. You saw the promos there. You've seen all the information. We're talking truth about white Christian capitalism, the blind side of white Christian capitalism. Because what's making news today, yesterday, since early this week, is the real life story of the Tooheys and Michael Oher. Beautiful movie starring Sandra Bullock and Tim McGraw and blah blah blah. It's a beautiful movie in regards of when it came out. It made lots of money. It was one of my favorites, actually. But there was always something that I was curious about in regards of the story. Seems just slightly, I don't know, it just seems too Hollywood, which it was 100% a Hollywood adaptation of a book. And the more we learn today of the connection between the author of the book, Sean Toohey, and Leanne Toohey from the Toohey family, Michael Oher, and the connection to Michael Oher and that sort of thing, the more we start to wonder, like Michael is suggesting in the filing in the Tennessee court earlier this week, to remove the conservatorship and the conservatorship of a 37-year-old man. So that's very peculiar, suspicious, red flag. But that's not the only one. It's he put this out. We had no idea that it was a conservatorship. We believed, and a lot of people believed, including Michael, that it was an adoption. That was the story that was played out in the media. That was the story that was played out, not necessarily in the movie itself, but the perception of, when you say that this is our son, kind of gives me the perception, I guess is a key word we'll use right now, that you adopted this young man. And there's been a lot of stuff coming through from the TUI lawyers, and I'm saying lawyers because there's not just one. Lot of response from supporters of the TUI family. Michael Orr's been very quiet. He put out one statement on Instagram saying, please show some respect for my family, and we're looking for peace. And if you want any response, go contact our lawyer. And so that's normal legalese. There's been great debate on all the mainstream media outlets in regards of who's out at fault and that. And so we're looking at it. Is it at fault? Is it illegal? Is it, well, we know it's not illegal. Doing our research on the TUI's Making It Happen Foundation, at first glance of the files that we were able to obtain from the IRS public site, there was no illegalities in the documents or anything like that. Lot of curiosity in those documents and such. And yeah, we're going to share what we've come across, some of the stuff that our fellow content creators have provided, a clip from the interview on the Jim Rome show from last week, prior to the filing of the documents by Michael Orr, and he was talking about his new book. If you go into our show notes and the link, there is a link to Michael's foundation, as well as a link to how to purchase his book directly from the publisher in Tennessee. Yeah, there's a link on his site to go to Amazon, but you know me, I am not a fan of capitalism. And if we're talking about the blind side of white Christian capitalism, we sure as heck do not want to be providing any more promotion for Lex Luthor Bezos and the Amazon crew. So again, links are there. Please check out Michael's book. He was on the Jim Rome show again with the fill-in host, and they were talking about different things. And one thing that keeps popping up is the blind side, of course, because, well, this was his story. But the question I have, was it really his story?
For the Carolina Panthers that many of us know more for his backstory from the 2009 mega hit movie, The Blind Side.
That's right. Since then, there have been many reports that Michael Orr was not happy with how he was portrayed in that movie. But is it true? The Insider's Debbie Matenopoulos has more from Los Angeles.
Yeah, Rick and Rudabeh, 7 years later, Orr's family, the Tuis, are setting the record straight with us.
I think he's just tired of it. You know, he's 29 years old, and they're wanting him to talk about when he was 16. You know, he's been through a Super Bowl. He thinks that's probably more interesting than a movie that's been out for 7 years.
Sean and Leanne Tui dismissing comments that their adopted son, Michael Orr, the subject of The Blind Side, hates the Oscar-winning movie.
It's mine.
Yes, sir.
Never had one before.
What, a room to yourself?
A bed.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that will pull something negative out, but the message of the movie is continued to this day to make a difference in the lives of so many people. And for that, we're very humbled.
But, you know, doesn't mean that Michael needs to talk about it.
An appearance. This was while they were aboard a luxury yacht, and they talked about the negotiations that they went through for the movie The Blind Side. We want to show you that clip from the episode, which was titled Blindsided.
I get a call from Steven Spielberg, Harvey Weinstein. I had to give them the rights to use our name. And I said, I'll give you the rights to use the name if I get to read the script and approve it or unapprove it. And so, sure enough, 7 months later, we get an envelope in the mail, and it's a script.
So pause quickly right there. So according to Sean Toohey, they wanted to use the family's names in the movie to get permission from the book that was based on their lives, and of course Michael's story. But I find it very curious that I got a call from Steven Spielberg and Harvey Weinstein. Okay, Harvey Weinstein, I could see. This clip from the whatever the hell the boat show is there. Apologies, I don't below deck or above the deck or whatever the hell it's called. The episode is from 2017. So clearly Harvey Weinstein's Me Too movement and everything was clearly in place when he was filming this in 2017. So the fact that he had no problem talking about Harvey Weinstein and then putting Steven Spielberg in there, and just curiosity there. I don't believe Steven Spielberg was a part of the original Blindside crew. I could be wrong. I'm not there, but I believe it was another production. It was Warner Brothers production, so there's the Weinstein piece. But I believe I believe that's a Ron Howard affiliated production. But again, we would have to take a look at that, and we could take a look. Link to the actual trailer for the movies is there, where you get the links in that. So just very curious that the fact that Toohey got an envelope with the script after requesting it so they could approve it. And I don't see, I mean, there's a lot here with the story coming from the Toohey lawyers, and we can share that later in the episode, but was the fact that the conservatorship was based on having Michael go to Ole Miss. And we remember that even in the movie, it portrayed a NCAA investigation. We all know the NCAA have a lot of regulations in regards to monetary compensation and those sort of things for college athletes. So Michael there was concerns about that. So when we're looking at the conservatory aspect, one of the Toohey lawyers has come out in a statement saying that's the reason why the conservatorship was created, was to provide him with the ability to go to Ole Miss. And the reason why he went to Ole Miss is because that Sean and Leanne are boosters of Ole Miss as being alumni, and we'll see in the documents from the Make It Happen Foundation that they're still directly connected to their sororities at Ole Miss, and and that sort of thing.
Here, Panther Blue rules. From the front door to the bling to the fingertips.
We got spirit fingers on. We're going to look like a parade float coming into the stadium.
And Leanne, who's taking a break from promoting her latest motivational book, Turnaround, will be wearing something extra special.
When Mama asked if she could have his real jersey to wear to the Super Bowl from last weekend, he said, I can sneak one out for you.
Win or lose.
A lot of fuss has been made about what my family did for our son, Michael Orr. But there are some amazing people in this great country of ours doing wonderful things each and every day. They're the true heroes of this world.
I feel like I'm part of the family.
They have opened up their homes to kids in need.
They've been approved to adopt you.
These people are truly making a difference. They are doing what it takes to make a child feel loved, wanted, and to have a forever family.
I want him, when he looks at me, to know that he has someone in the world who is there for him.
And I just said, I promise you that I will be the one person that stays in your life forever. Their stories are the stories that inspire me.
I really want to say that he's like my real brother, because he is.
They are what Family Edition is all about. If no one has told you this, you're heroes. I mean, how does it get any better than this? It doesn't.
An Up original series, Family Edition with Leanne Toohey. Series premiere, only on Up.
Pause again. So they had the Family Edition, was a series that was created for Up. If you're not familiar with Up, it is a spiritual network in the United States. Based was the Gospel Network at one point. Do uplifting shows is the key there. But they did this show, and I believe it was 2010 or 2011 when the show was originally premiered. There's still some clips from the show, as you can see the clip of the original promo for the premiere. And the key word that I want you to get there is the promotion of adoption. So that is really key. The fact that this program was based on adoption, on promotion of adoption. And the Tooheys Making It Happen Foundation are still promoting adoption with Forever Fridays on their Instagram, Facebook channels. But when it comes to their own, as they say, son, Michael, they didn't do an adoption. They did a conservatorship.
Uplifting entertainment.
Okay, so I'm going to lay these out. I'm going to work on this.
Finny is an avid surfer, so I wanted to take a minute and pull her aside and kind of get to know her a little bit better away from everybody else. So this is like a really big passion of yours.
Yes, extremely.
Do you think sometimes that you use this to get out in the ocean and escape?
Yeah, I definitely do. Like when I go out surfing, I feel like I can get away from all that.
Mm-hmm.
And
what's all that? Like, what do you feel like you need to get away from?
Well, like stress in our house from like things that are going on, like adopting Johnny.
I've been in your shoes. I've been exactly where you are. When I look at my family dynamics and when we were bringing Michael into our family, it was always so nice that he had football, SJ had basketball, I cheered, and I think sometimes each of you having your own outlet is such a positive thing because it gives you somewhere to go away from each other because he doesn't know what you're going through and you don't know what he's going through.
I think the fact that Colin also has an adopted sibling.
Pause again. So as you can tell in this episode, the daughter of Sean and Leanne, who was also featured in the movie, they are listed as saying that they have an adopted brother. So there's the adoption piece again. And so for the show and this program that they were designed, it was all about promoting adoption on their website, through their foundation. It's about promoting adoption. But with the one person who they had the opportunity to adopt, they chose conservatorship.
Makes us like a lot alike, and we have a lot of similarities. So it's nice to be able to talk about that with her.
A lot of people know your family because of football or The Blind Side.
Sure.
But you mentioned it, you played college basketball.
Yep.
You got some hoops.
Yeah, well, I was so bad at basketball, I ended up moving into football. That's how good I was at basketball. But, no, I love basketball, man. I mess with our guys all the time. Tore my Achilles a couple years ago, so less pick up basketball now, but still every now and then. Yeah, that's true.
And I just said it, we all know about your family and The Blind Side. You're a big family guy, though. They're actually here in Orlando. I don't know if you spend more time here at the
Oh
complex
my
or
gosh.
at Disney with
Coach
them.
Malzahn, that's not true. She made that up. I posted a couple photos one time. That's not true. We do love Disney. We're the weird Disney adult family, so people can give me mess with that, but we support it. So.
Tennessee court filing saying conservators Sean Tuohy and Leanne Tuohy saw something else, a gullible young man whose athletic talent could be exploited for their own benefit. Orr alleges the adoption papers he thought he signed were instead for a conservatorship, which allowed his conservators to take full control over his contracts. What's more, he said the family profited millions from the movie.
I knew it was coming.
The Tuohy's son, Sean Jr., who is not named in the lawsuit and was a child when any agreements were signed, says texts refute Orr's statement he first discovered the conservatorship this year.
There was things back in 2020, 2021 that were like, if you guys give me this much, then I won't go public with things.
The lawsuit requests accounting for money earned and ending the conservatorship. The former offensive lineman hoping to call his own shots.
Player for the Carolina.
So that was a little bit of a breakdown on where we're at now. If you didn't pick it up, and or if you did pick it up, good, you right on the ball. What is one thing that was mentioned, promoted in every one of those clips? It's The Blind Side. It's The Blind Side. It's the movie, known better from The Blind Side. Yes, SJ could have become a football star because his dad had a bunch of money and their parents are loaded. And yes, he could have got to this position, but he's known from The Blind Side. He's known from the character that in The Blind Side, it was based that it was SJ that discovered Michael. That's the Hollywood version of it. In the actual real life version, it was Sean who actually discovered Michael, came across Michael, and befriended him and connected with him. And the first thing that Sean did, which in the movie and the story they keep saying, is the fact that Colin was the one that saw Michael sitting at lunchtime looking hungry because he seemed to not have enough food. So she paid for his lunches and set up a tap. But in real life, it was actually Sean who did that. And it's been confirmed by multiple sources, the fact that Sean Tuohy was the instigator of the relationship. But that doesn't look real good, doesn't look as good in the movie, because Tim McGraw building that relationship wouldn't be an Oscar winner compared to Sandra Bullock and that performance. And what you have to realize is we have to separate Sandra Bullock from Leanne Tuohy, because a lot of people think it's the same person. And clearly it's not. And there's people that are harassing Sandra or trying to harass Sandra, whatever, asking for the Oscar back because this is a fraud and all these sort of things. Sandra Bullock was an actress that performed, that read a script that was provided to her, and did a performance that was Oscar worthy in regards to the character that she did. Now, whatever the case may be, at the time, it was a feel-good story. And if we just left it as the fairy tale, the Hollywood fairy tale of this aspect of kindness of our hearts and bringing this young man in and all these things, actually wouldn't be too bad. But of course, we've learned differently. And the big thing we've learned is because of the fact that Michael was, at the time that the movie was being made, so when the book was sold for to the movie for a movie adaptation. The there were proceeds of that book that did go to Michael. I believe it was about $15,000. There was it was whatever the starting sum was for the author, and the author provided that back to the Tui family, which then Michael ended up with about $15,000 from the initial sale of the script to the movie for the movie rights. But then the story goes differently here, because what we have a person who wrote two stories in that book. And the one story was about Lawrence Taylor, and the other story was Michael's. But the Lawrence Taylor part of the story wasn't a Hollywood time, especially the fact that Lawrence Taylor was connected to a lot of things that were negative to his reputation in regards to narcotics and violence and those sort of things. So, but the Michael Orr story was what the way it was written was something that Hollywood wanted to take a part of. So, what we have to look at is the adaptation of Michael from the book. And the fact that everyone's running with this narrative that connects Michael to this story is about Michael. But with the conservatorship, Michael did not gain any sort of compensation. The Tuies actually controlled his ability to sell his name and likeness. Now, we know that there's an argument going on between the Tuies lawyers and Michael's lawyers in regards to Michael did sign contracts with the his NFL contracts to all knowledge that is currently available. That that was signed by himself and his agent. All those deals were done by him. Now, what I see here is, and what the like when we're looking at all these all the coverage on mainstream media, they keep talking about a lawsuit. Well, here's a news flash, and thank you to the one of the lawyers that has a show, and I can't remember her name. We will anyway. Was watching a program the other day, and she said that they keep bringing up legal lawsuit. Trying to get out of conservatorship isn't a lawsuit. Michael Orr did not file a lawsuit against the Tuies. Michael Orr filed an application to have his conservatorship ended. He's a 37-year-old man. And his biggest request in there, which from all other legal experts outside of ones that are connected to the Tuies or supportive of the Tui family, is it's in his right to have the documented evidence of what was gained from his name, likeness, and story in The Blind Side. Because if he got the $15,000, which has been reported from the sale of the original script, there was no other money that was provided to him. If there was, it was very limited. People are saying that, like the Tuies are saying that they haven't made any money off this. That why would they do any of this sort of thing that are being accused of? They were rich before Michael came into the picture, which is true. But I'm sorry, Sean, having a fast food empire in the southern United States isn't the flex you think it is. Yes, you were uber wealthy. And when we're looking at the uber wealth, we're saying that they're millionaires in the South. But we have to look at the communities, especially the ones that the Michael was in, especially the ones that Sean's fast food locations were in a lot of them were in lower income communities or lower to mid income communities. It wasn't like they were outside the gated communities. These were your regular person or your average customer location. So you're making millions, hundreds of millions, because we know that you sold that was reported and confirmed that they sold his fast food empire. And we'll get into that with the documents that we came from with the IRS. But from selling the fast food empire, he made several hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's his flex saying, why would we do this to our own son? Which I don't know how you can say son when you clearly were under the guise of providing adoption, but you are his conservators. Anywho, the fact is that yes, you and they were wealthy, and you look at that. So you're looking at having a net worth of hundreds of millions of dollars. Now let's take a look at that in regards to where that hundreds of millions of dollars is. So if he was in Nashville, value wouldn't be as big as it is in the communities that they are. So in a small community in Tennessee or connections to Mississippi, those hundreds of millions of dollars are like billions of dollars because the wealth gap is so much bigger. Having hundreds of millions of dollars in the South when the South's cost of living is so low and the poverty is so high, it's beyond comparison to you having that much elitism and flexing as that. And then you saw the clip there that they were above deck or below deck or whatever the hell the show was called. And feel free to fire it in the chat if you are know it's below deck or above deck. I don't care, but yeah, feel free. Anyway, on that exclusive luxury yacht that this show is filmed on. So you're on a luxury yacht, you're uber wealthy. And the question is, why would you do this to Michael Orr? The answer is exploitation. That is the key. And if we're looking at the wealthiest of the wealthy in Western society, we can say Eastern society as well, but our knowledge is more firmly has more of a firm grasp on it here in Western society. The majority of wealth that is accumulated in Western society is due to exploitation, be it exploitation of labor, be it exploitation of people, be it exploitation of equipment. It's all exploitation. I mean, why I created the design for our merchandise in the store, which you can go co-fi.com/talking truth. Capitalism is, and there's a number of different graphics, exploitation for profit. And that's exactly what the Tuohys did. And how did they do that? Because we didn't make these millions of dollars that are being claimed. And I'm sure they did not make the hundreds of millions of dollars off of the movie directly, because we all know, like SAG, there's a reason why there's a strike, that people that are part of the that aren't the production companies or aren't the ownership class of the entertainment sector, they're not making boatloads of money. So with the amount that they be paid for the rights to their story and their name and likenesses and that, it's probably not a great amount. It is probably more than what they're claiming, and the fact that it was one of the highest grossing sports movies in history. residuals, and that should be very decent for the family. And from what we're getting, all reports are the Tuohys in Sean and Leanne, as well as the two children, were compensated for their name and likeness. Not necessarily knowing what the compensation was for Michael's name and likeness. And the key is, with the conservatorship, the Tuohys own all aspects and ability to promote Michael's name and likeness. So when they say, oh, well, we didn't stop him from signing with the NFL, or we support this and we support that, that's fine. But you did stop him in regards to being compensated accordingly for his life's work, basically being utilized in the story of The Blind Side. And you can claim that you didn't make a lot of money off the movie. That's what Sean Tuohy's claims are through his lawyer, and that's what claims are from SJ and all this other stuff. But with all that being said, you did profit from the movie, and you continue to profit from the movie, as you can tell in our story arc that we shared. And all the links to the full videos are in the description. Every time you mention the Tuohys, you also mention The Blind Side. The Tuohys wouldn't be as well known in society outside of the upper class, because they are the corporate elite in the South, and because they have sports connections in the South. But being upper elite, they would have connections also, like into the Hollywoods and whatever. They could have those connections. But I find it very interesting that their lawyers are from California. Their lawyers are Hollywood lawyers. Like, their lawyer Singer is also the same lawyer that Lizzo currently has for their harassment suit. Singer is also the same lawyer that defended Bill Cosby and Charlie Sheen. Singer is known in the legal world as a cleanup man. He's there to clean up the messes. So if the Tuohys are up and up and have been honest and forthright with all the information, and have welcomed Michael to their family, and he is their son, and they've treated him with respect, and all these sorts of things that the story is providing, why do you have a lawyer who's known as a cleanup artist? That's the question I have. And that lawyer has come out and he is basically claiming defamation of character for the Tuohys in the lawsuit, which isn't a lawsuit. That was the filing of Michael's request to be removed from the conservatorship. They keep claiming these things. And then they're also claiming that there's extortion, that Michael tried to extort them for $10 million one time, 15 million. The story keeps changing, the amount keeps changing. So my question for everyone watching here is, we know that there's two sides of the story, but technically there's three. So there'll be Michael's side, there'll be the Tuohy side, and then there'll be the truth. And the truth will be somewhere in the middle. Now, the difference between most times where there's a argument or a dispute over, especially over money or over brand or over some sort of control, there's a power dynamic. And so when Michael is claiming that Sean Tuohy and Leanne Tuohy saw him as a vulnerable person that they could exploit easily, he's not telling lies. He's telling the truth. Now, did they outwardly exploit him from the get-go? That's still to be determined. But was there questions in regards to the ability of joining the family and having Michael be a part of the family? That is the question. Because according to Michael, that he was under the impression that the Tuohys did the conservatorship was like adopting him. It was never really explained. And then the question comes up with the conservatorship. Number one, and a lot of lawyers are going off on other channels about this, and I'll bring it up as well. If this conservatorship is on the up and up, why, number one, did the judge approve it without testimony or any sort of voice from Michael? Well, our observation and our what will we say? Our belief would be the same reason why Michael was presented as less than, presented as a poor, struggling would we say lack of intelligence? I don't. The portrayal of Michael in the movie is very much, and we will play some of the interview that he had on the Jim Rome show shortly, and you get to hear his take and like why one of the big things that that frustrates him about the movie and has the entire time was the portrayal of him not knowing football. Like it doesn't make sense that they would do that sort of thing.
He is a Super Bowl champion, a first-round NFL draft pick. Michael joins us here in studio. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my
Really
pleasure.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
My pleasure. First, football question. You played under Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
And now Hugh is back at the SEC. You played for him under Ole Miss, at Ole Miss. Now he's back at Auburn.
Yep.
Hugh has had some up.
So we'll pause quickly there. Hugh Freeze, if you're wondering why that name sounds familiar, Hugh Freeze was the coach of the high school that Michael was originally recruited to.
Ups and downs in his career as well. But in this book, you talk about how much you appreciate him, that you're still friends to this day. So tell me about your relationship with Hugh and how you think he'll do at Auburn.
I think personally he'll do fantastic. We date all the way back to high school, and he was
That's
my
right.
high school football coach. And he was one of the first mentors I saw do it the right way, football-wise, off the field, fundamentals, technique. I learned from him that the coach is way more important than the player, because I saw a bunch of guys who didn't quite have the talent beat a lot of guys who had tons of talent. And that's where, fundamentals and technique became a big emphasis in, how I approach the game of football. But at Auburn, he FaceTimes me all the time when he has a big-time recruit in and, lets me talk to the big-time recruits. But I think he's a genius offensively, and I think he'll do fantastic right away.
You played with some of the greats, and you were on that Super Bowl team that ended Ray Lewis's storied and famed career. You won the Super Bowl with the Ravens in 2012. What was the fire from Ray like? We saw what it was on screen. What was it like behind the scenes?
I still get chills watching his videos today. Behind the scenes, you come in. I came in. I think he was in year 12 or something. So he was fairly into his career. So we looked up to Ray Lewis, Avery, guys like that, like they were Marvel characters. So to have him be able to go out on the field pregame and just get us pumped up, man, he could just look at us. We'll get fired up, man. So, no, it was tremendous. My locker was right next to him. We used to hang out and, to be around guys like that. If he hadn't said he was going to retire a few weeks before the playoffs started, I don't think we would have won the Super Bowl.
Really?
Because for me, everybody locked in. You think guys like that are going to play forever. When he talked to the team, I told him, man, I thought you was going to retire with me. So we couldn't believe it. I think everybody developed a sense of purpose, a sense of urgency, and, headed toward one goal. And for him to retire on top, it meant a lot.
One theme from this book and some of the other interviews you've done is that what you see is not always the truth, and that there's a lot of narratives out there that may not be even attached to truth. And you mentioned Cam Newton in this. You were a teammate of his in Carolina. You guys went to the 2015 Super Bowl, lost to the Denver Broncos, but you said your interactions with him, very different than how the public perceived him. They thought he was a different guy. What was the guy that you knew?
So we'll just jump ahead there, talking about Cam Newton, his former teammate with the Carolina Panthers. We all know that Cam had some, not attitude, but personality conflicts. I believe there hasn't been a quarterback in the NFL that hasn't had those personality conflicts.
No matter what it takes after a rough background.
Last one out. And I think the biggest for me is, being portrayed, not being able to read or write.
And there's the key. So when we're looking at, and I apologize, I'm just going to jump back here.
Getting myself up. First one in the locker room, last one out.
And here is Michael explaining how he was portrayed in the Blind Side wasn't accurate.
No matter what it takes after a rough background. Is that the big one that you feel you were mislabeled as?
I think it took away the hard work and the dedication that I created from a child, and going to school in the third grade, getting myself up. First one in the locker room, last one out. And I think the biggest for me is, being portrayed, not being able to read or write. Second grade, I was doing plays and in front of the school. And I think that's one of the, when you go into a locker room and your teammates don't think you can learn a playbook, that weighs heavy on someone, and you have to understand. I understand that the movie has given me a position. I'm honored to have the position it's given me, but, you have to understand, before I moved in with the family, I was an All-American. That's what I want the generations behind me to see in this book right here, to understand that you don't have to have someone save you and rescue you to go out and be successful. You got every tool in you. And this book right here is a playbook on life. Looking yourself in the mirror when I was 11, 12-year-old kid, telling myself, hey, everyone around you is even in an even worse situation that you're in. So you're going to have to get up and do this thing yourself, and developing a routine right then when I could have given up at 11, 12-year-old, as an 11 to 12-year-old kid. So that's what I'm trying to paint the message in this book right here. And looking through everything that I went through and finding a positive in it.
And it wasn't that you don't have gratitude to the family that took you in. That's really
very
not the
grateful.
message.
Very grateful for every family that helped me throughout this journey. It's a lot of people that deserve a lot of credit. For me, I want to show the young people and everyone behind me that, hey, You deserve some credit for your hard work. You can get it done, and that's really the goal.
So for those that don't know, you grew up in a really difficult situation. No one in your family had aspired to really have a career. Many didn't want a job. The people that you were around didn't have anything to do most days. Poverty, homelessness, the projects in Memphis. You were just surrounded by a culture of there's really nothing to life. There's no way out. But you somehow figured out that you needed to see something else. I think you described it as like standing in front of an ocean when you walk to the edge of the projects, that there was a whole something out there that you had no idea about. How'd you gain a perspective in a cycle that usually doesn't allow that?
I think I was blessed with being on the streets from the time I was 3 years old, in and out of foster care from 3 to 10, on the streets for a year.
You were blessed.
Yes, on the streets for a year after running away from foster home at 10 years old and being placed in a mental hospital and running away from there a few weeks later. And the state just gave up on me, gave back custody. And the struggles that I had early on, being in and out of homes, on the streets, I needed a routine. That's when I developed a routine, 11, 12 years old, going to school on my own in the 3rd grade. And from there on... and
your family, not to interject, but a lot of crack addiction amongst your family and your parents. You didn't know your dad.
That was the norm. That was the norm at the time. That's the way we grew up. But you grow up so fast, like I said, you understand what's right and what's wrong. So from that point on, when I started going to school on my own, I was going to do the right thing because I knew what the wrong thing was, and I didn't want to be that. And I saw what it did to my family, and I saw the situation that we was in. So, I was going to put it in my mind and imagine a future and go chase that was better than what I was around. So I think that was the most important thing, was having those struggles early on and being so tired as a 11-year-old kid and forcing myself to, just go to school every day and just be away from that environment and picture myself somewhere else. So I think routine, discipline, and being consistent is the key to everything. Without a routine, man, everyone I know who doesn't have a routine, their life's in shambles. So that's everything to me. I think the struggles, it blessed me and it helped me get off the streets a lot earlier than some others would.
So as you can tell, there's a lot to unpack there. That conversation, brilliant. Like I said, the whole interview is in the show notes. Urge you to watch it. Urge you to go and order Michael's book, and just see the story of what should have been The Blind Side. Let's go it that way. Clearly, that is not a man who has any sort of difficulty in language. Not a man who is has any sort of disability in that would need a conservatory. Yeah, so that's when the question comes up, because a lot of things, a lot of athletes, they talk and whatever. He's very well spoken, and I'm not saying well spoken like this bullshit white privilege thing. Well, for a black man, he's very well spoken. That's the most utter racist freaking comment you can have. No, he's a very well spoken individual, and when there's sort of questions on that ability and why the Tuohys became his conservators, that's where the questions pop up, because clearly he understands the game of football. Like he said, he's been drilling the game since he was a young boy. And if you're talking about, oh, he was on the streets, like, the narrative that keeps being sold is the narrative that was in the movie. And the narrative of the movie was he was a poor, uneducated black male that needed rescuing, which is furthest from the truth. Yes, he needed a helping hand, because anyone in poverty that doesn't have the advantages the Tui family would have, or that even I would have, coming from a person of the global majority in a impoverished community, they're going to need a helping hand. That's why when we're looking at celebrities these days, why I don't have like the celebrity culture, why there are not many celebrities that I have respect for anymore, because they got theirs and F you to yours. There's no difference between President Joe Biden $700 for the tragic people that have lost everything in Maui and old 45 throwing paper towels. Absolutely no difference in regarding human life as worthless. So, when you have someone struggling and you have the ability to bring them up, the key is what I'm trying to do here as a cis male with white privilege. I'm trying to elevate my sibs from another crib, especially those in the global majority, especially those that are members of the 2S community that are female, ones that don't have everything that a white privileged person has, doesn't have that path to power, doesn't have that path to privilege. So if I can help amplify the voices of the voiceless, or the voices of those that need to be amplified, I will. I'm still a work in progress, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not perfect. There's no way in hell I'm perfect. But I'm trying my damnedest, and my damnedest is to elevate those that require it. Give the hand to those who need it. And I'm not doing it because I'm a Christian. I'm not doing it because I can benefit from it. We all could benefit from helping our fellow man, but not to the level that the Tuis have benefited. And you say, well, you keep saying, ADC, you keep saying the Tuis have benefited, but no one's provided the proof. We're going to share the screen. Let's have some fun. So we are at Making It Happen Foundation. The Tui Family Foundation serving underprivileged youth since 2009. Which is interesting, is sometime after Blindside. Have a young black boy on the cover. And about us, our family. And look at that family. Who's in the center of the family? That would be Michael. Our projects, we're doing all these things, and I'm sure they're doing some great work, because most nonprofits do good work. The problem stems from this. Here's your board of directors: Sean Tui, Leanne Tui, Collins Tui Smith, SJ Tui, and Debbie Brannon. Now, if you think you recognize Debbie Brannon, yes, you do, because her photo was in the thumbnail and the promo for tonight's episode. And why was her photo in the thumbnail of tonight's episode? Well, the easiest way is to show you If we can get it to open. And there we go. And let's just zoom in here. And we will share the full screen. And right there. So if you look out here, this is the document that's provided to the Internal Revenue Service, Department of Treasury, July 29th, 2010. Care of Deborah Pace Brennan. Okay. So that is the person who filed the initial paperwork for the Making It Happen Foundation. And you're like, yeah, whatever. That doesn't mean anything. Totally agree. The thing comes into the account, though, is on the conservatorship document. And I can't get, they must have had so many people looking for access to it. But on one of the programs that we watched earlier, they had a copy of it themselves and they showed it. And who filed the initial conservatorship document? None other than Debbie Brannon. So Debbie Brannon filed those documents on the conservatorship that didn't have Michael's input, that didn't have Michael's any sort of statement. Yeah. So that's why we have the questions that we do, and why we're looking forward to hopefully public access to the conservatorship. As we're talking now on the 17th of August, word is the Tuohys are going to dissolve it. Hopefully they dissolve it and provide Michael with the information that was requested, but who knows? Just saying that Deb, who was and is a director on the Making It Happen Foundation, was the registered lawyer who filed the document for the Tuohys. So when there's questions of acknowledgement or conversations with Michael about these sort of things, Deb as a lawyer, if Deb is, when Michael is been asked about Deb, and in his document he mentions her, that he's supposed to call her Aunt Deb because she's a family friend. Deb failed Michael in informing him that it was a conservatorship. The judge that signed off on this document without Michael's input failed Michael. And why would they do this? And that's the question of, well, what, we didn't gain anything from it. You gained conservatorship of Michael. You gain control of a black male and all legal rights, all health rights. This is modern day slavery. What is the difference between what the white colonizers did to the slaves and what the Tuohys have done to Michael. And what Deb was, if she's complicit and should face some sort of fine or some sort of discipline for complacency, because clearly she had knowledge of what they were doing. You don't file a document, you don't file as a putting your legal certification on the line just to do something nice. And I questioned the judge. Judge is now retired, old white guy. And the funny part is, not really funny. When you go to Google his name, there's actually a very talented, well-respected, and historically important black judge with the same name. So I give condolences to that judge, the amazing black man who did the historic things that has the same name as the guy who signed off on this conservatorship for Michael Orr. Because this guy would have known who Michael Orr is. And people are going, well, I don't know. He's a young black man. Why would you know? Well, let's do a little bit of 6 degrees of separation of Tim McGraw. Tim McGraw played Sean Tuohy in The Blind Side. Tim McGraw was also known for a couple of other positions, a couple of other roles. One of them was Four Christmases and highly recommended. Great Reese Witherspoon, Vince Vaughn comedy. Not good for kids, but anyway. But the other one that he's involved in that he actually got his acting chops in was Friday Night Lights. Yes, and he played an abusive piece of crap dad who assaulted his own kid and basically duct taped his kid's hands together because his kid kept fumbling. He was an alcoholic abuser. And that was Tim McGraw's first into the world of acting. So when he comes as Sean Tuohy, it's actually a very different, likable role. But why do I talk about Tim McGraw and why do I talk about Friday Night Lights? Well, the whole concept of Friday Night Lights, and if you're from the United States, you would understand this. Canadians might not understand it because it's not as prevalent here. But high school football is religion in the United States. That's what Friday Night Lights is. It's small town USA football on Friday night. And what happens on Monday morning? Well, right now we've got sitcoms like Young Sheldon and various. I'll use Young Sheldon as an example, and George Cooper losing his job as coach because of having a bad season, and them knowing all the players and the boosters knowing all the players. Well, you can't tell me that this judge who signed off on the document didn't know that Michael Orr was a football star. Was a star in high school. Because all these old privileged fuckers are the ones that are sitting in the coffee shops, drinking coffee and talking about the game. So if there's any connection to the community that the Tuohys are from, and this judge is from, or any connection in the state, because they're all from Tennessee, so we know sure as shit that Michael being an All-American in high school, that judge is going to know who he is. So why would that judge sign off on that document knowing that Michael Orr is a football star? Well, it's an easy answer. Because Michael Orr is a black man. And according to that judge, unless that black man is on the field winning the game for him, Michael Orr is less than that judge. Michael Orr is less than the Tuohys. Because if he wasn't, if he was truly the son, the adopted son that they loved and still love, depending on which interview is being shown today, you wouldn't treat your own family the way the Tuohys treated Michael. And we go back to that whole thing of making it happen. So I'm going to switch things over here, share this tab, and I'm going to show this one. So Pete Pranica, I'm not sure because I'm not a Memphis Grizzly fan. He's listed as a director, and he was listed as a director in 2015. So when we're looking at the directors here, officers, directors on the actual IRS document that was filed, Sean Tuohy's the president, Leanne Tuohy's the vice president, Deborah Pace is the secretary treasurer, Collins is a director, Sue Mitchell's a director, and Pete Pranica is a director. And we're going, Sue. Who's Sue? Why does Sue sound familiar? Wow. Let's make it easy for you. Sue was the teacher and the subject of The Blind Side. You also might have seen Sue as part of Colin and Leanne's little show on the religious channel as well, about adoption, although they didn't adopt their own child. But Sue is Miss Sue, who was portrayed by Kathy Bates. And if we zoom in, you can actually see it there. Right there. Most recently, she was portrayed by Kathy Bates in the Oscar-nominated movie The Blind Side. Post has 59 comments. All of them are garbage. One of them is do you still tutor? That was the only one that's actually relevant. The rest of them are from scams and other things that are asking for money or that sort of thing. But I just thought it'd be interesting, the fact that Miss Sue is a director on the Making It Happen Foundation, but was also a part of the story, The Blind Side. We'll go back to the document here, and this is a fun one. I've talked to, because I'm not from the United States, my knowledge of nonprofit workings in the United States is not as strong as it is in Canada. Well, I know in Canada it's kind of questioned, but here, let's take a look. Filed in 2015, the Making It Happen Foundation have 100 shares of FedEx and 210 shares of Fidelity Government Capital Reserves. I don't know about you, but I don't know many nonprofits that are playing the stock market or have an open, that they're not through a broker or not through something else, where it's an investment firm. I don't know a nonprofit that actually holds shares to a NASDAQ company. So that's where I start to question that. I'm like, wow, that's very interesting. And all these other things, like contracted services, like nothing is out of the ordinary in regards of what they're paying for, other income. It seems that the Tuohys use this thing. They did pay out $20,000 in management fees, off of a $5,000 investment. But nothing like really stands out in regards of illegalities until we get here. Person contributions RGT Management, $91,392. Okay. Southern Multi Foods Inc., $20,000. Leanne and Sean Toohey, $15,436. Doesn't seem too bad. You got a couple of companies that are showing their support for this nonprofit, until you look at what RGT Management is. RGT Management was the business name of Sean Toohey's fast food empire. So here's an article from 2019 from the Franchise Times. Sean and Leanne Toohey at their home in Memphis after most of RGT Management assets have been sold. He sold 105 restaurants, 55 properties for $213 million in 6 separate transactions. His company, RGT Management, completed those deals with the help of longtime investment banker Auspex Capital last year. Well, harder to unwind a company, to build a company, declares Toohey, the protagonist with his wife in the 2009 hit movie The Blind Side, about their adoption of Michael Orr, a homeless African-American kid they saw on the side of the road wearing cut-off jeans and a t-shirt in the bitter cold. I don't know about you, but if I'm a business owner, it's either me or my people that will edit that article before it is published. So if I know that that is false information saying that oh, by the way, we didn't adopt Michael. We just have a conservatorship on him. That is, I'd make sure that was in the article. So no one, because we're claiming if everything is on the up and up, we're not going to claim that we adopted Michael if we really didn't, because we don't want to have any sort of misrepresentation, because we're upstanding members of the Christian community. And if I could roll my eyes, I'd roll them much harder. So this article says Orr went on to play Baltimore Ravens, Carolina Panthers. Sandra Bullock played Leanne. Toohey downplays the initial encounter with the 16-year-old Orr, perhaps explains why he's no-nonsense restaurant operator who leaves the dramatic stories and passionate statements to his wife. So they divested his restaurants, including 28 KFCs, to his longtime operating partner, Michael Rowe. Let's remember that name, Michael Rowe, because that's going to come up somewhere else. Oh, by the way, Southern Multi Foods is what was one of the franchises for KFC. So in total, $101,392 was donated by Sean Toohey under his business to this foundation that is a nice tax break. But it's not illegal. It's all on the up and up. So we won't go into any further investigation into that. But we will go into the next bit here. Let's see if I can open this up. Oh, and being like Pat and Lila, you're seeing how the hot dogs are made. Actually, you're not. Oh, I wasn't sharing the screen. You were still on that screen. That's okay. Anyway, we'll share this one instead. So now you can see we have the copy of the document that was filed with the IRS from Making It Happen Foundation for the 2016 calendar year. Now, the disappointing part about the IRS is they did not have access, or they do not provide access to before 2015 to the general public. So we would have to go into some sort of thing. As we're doing it for a show, we're not going to put, I don't want to give any more money to the Tuies. They don't need any more money. So to disclose any of this stuff, there's all these things of zero, net zero, and all these sort of things that they claim. I'm not an accountant. I never claimed to be an accountant. That's why I want someone with some great financial experience to join me in the Accountability Alliance here in Alberta. Anyway, that's a side note. So they did some contributions to the Evans Elementary, which would be where SJ would be going to school at the time. Memphis Intercity Rugby, Angel Street Memphis, provide general support for the organization. So feel good project for the Tuies. So let's go to our officers. So our officers here are Sean Tuohy, Leanne Tuohy, Deb Brannon, Collins Tuohy, Matt Saunders. Why is old Pete no longer a director? I can tell you why, because at the time that Pete was a director, Sean Tuohy, they haven't updated his profile on the website. He's an NBA broadcaster, the subject of The Blind Side. Sean hasn't broadcast the NBA for a few years, but when he was on TV with Pete Pranica, then that's when Pete became a director on the foundation. Anywho, back to Matt Saunders. If we Google search Mr. Saunders, quick Google search gets you a aspect of and last time we checked, part of a wealth thing. It's not popping up. Anyway, there is a or actually, if we go that, oh yes, there. That's where we comes in. That Matt Saunders is connected to, if this is the same Matt Saunders, he's a manager of FedEx, which would be the same FedEx that they own shares in right here. So, question is, why the change? Why that sort of thing? I mean, everything comes back to The Blind Side. Every story, every connection, all these things, it's The Blind Side. And what is the biggest connection about The Blind Side is the fact that they have stopped Michael Oher from having any sort of benefit from The Blind Side outside of being known as the Michael Oher who was based on The Blind Side, or who they based the story on. So when we look at here at the contributions again, we'll zoom in for people if you're as blind as I am. RGT Management, which we already said was Sean's parent company, $72,741. Chicken Little Ventures, which has got the same address as RGT Management, $22,788. Motor Racing Outreach for $15,914. Insulet America for $6,093. PSP Foods, which, you guessed it, has the same address as MGT, whatever RGT Management, whatever Sean's numbered company he's using. They're worth a $7,000 donation. All these donations are tax deductible, blah, 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 blah. So kind of see a pattern here with the fact that they are not necessarily illegal, but questionable activities when it comes to their dealings with this foundation. So again, we just zoom in and go through all the other stuff. There's no, like I said, we've gone through the document. There's no real huge amounts of money being funneled or anything like that. Again, if we're looking at calculations, would be SJ's final year at the school. So they donated $28,871 to the elementary school. And then the school that the school in Cincinnati got a new kitchen, and then a Christian school got $10,000 for playground equipment. And it seems the program is the revenue comes from books. I don't know if they're Christian books. I don't know if it's a book sale. I don't know if it's used books. Who knows? Anyway, the books are listed and all the stuff, and the IRS has no problems with that. Again, go through the directors: Sean Tuohy, Leanne Tuohy, Deb Collins, Matt Saunders, and Sean Tuohy Jr., which is SJ, which would mean that SJ would be 18 to be able to have that. And again, we have FedEx on the books and Fidelity Management. Now, around this time is when Sean sold the business. So the donation came from both Leanne and Sean at $50,000. Then a health foundation donated $15,000, and Bulzerk, Tyler, Phoenix, and Dallas, whatever, donated $13,460. So the question comes up with the fact that all these gifts and all this stuff is all based on what was the aftermath of The Blind Side. Because clearly, and this is where the struggle comes in, I would really love to have the documents of the initial year that they launched the foundation, because I would bet dollars to donuts that they raised a huge amount of investment at that time, because that's when Leanne was going on the media tour, as Sandra Bullock was so popular as her portrayal, and Leanne was going, "I'm the real Leanne Tuohy." Don't have that, but that would be very interesting to see. There's other document, I believe it's 2019, and the only they had no donations from anyone except for Auspex Capital, which is the company that helped Sean sell the business. So if that was part of the deal where, oh, you donate to our foundation and we'll provide you with this, that, and the other thing, I don't know. But I find it very interesting that the foundation is used to basically glorify people, and it's a glory project for all of them. We talked about SJ and getting to where he was. We talked about all these things that are all connected to the foundation. And let's go to Collins, because everyone claiming that they didn't profit off of The Blind Side. And yes, they might not have profited directly off The Blind Side, but sure as shit did you guys profit off of the brand The Blind Side. So she got her bachelor's degree, prepared to accompany Michael to New York. She talks about him going to the draft. She's a co-owner and director of marketing and sales at Whimsy Cookie Company in Memphis, and currently on the board of the Making It Happen Foundation, dedicated to changing children's lives through hope, love, and opportunity. Also contributed in her parents' New York Times bestseller, In a Heartbeat, sharing the power of cheerful giving. She has her own fashion travel blog and all that other stuff. She starred in Family Edition on the UP network, Uplifting Entertainment. And the family's life, again, is chronicled in Michael Lewis's New York Times #1 bestseller, The Blind Side. And we all go back to Michael Lewis. And what did we learn about Michael Lewis this week? We learned that the author, New York Times best-selling author, Michael Lewis, was Sean Tuohy's childhood friend. So with that being said, I'm going to share this, and please hold your disgust for a moment. Here is the author talking about The Blind Side.
Questions. I think I and everyone who reads this book comes away from it wondering what happens to Michael. One of the first things I did after I read it was go on Google and look him up. Can you give us an update on how he's doing academically?
If you Google him now, I Google him now. He's on the Dean's List at Ole Miss, which says a lot about the Dean's List at Ole Miss. But you know what? The former coach of Alabama Crimson Tide. Or that the football team can be proud of. A lot of these schools sort of have inverted their purpose in life. That there are schools like Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is not even the best example, that seem to exist mainly so that they can sustain a football team. And they then take these kids, many of whom are from the underclass, poor black kids from ghettos around America, and let them into the school, get them in however they can get them in, and then they create a track for them inside the school. And the track is not designed for them to get an education or even to actually engage with the school outside of the football team in any way. It's designed to keep their grade point average to the level where they can continue to play football. And if you watch the serious football schools, Florida State's probably the best, on TV, they're always selling you the idea, of course, the NCAA, they're always selling that this is actually a school behind this football team. And so they show you pictures of the school on TV, and sometimes they'll flash up the players, they'll even list what their majors are. They shouldn't do this because it's too much of a clue. But if they do, when they do this, and it's criminal justice or sociology, or sometimes it makes you shudder, journalism. Each school has its major for the football team. They're all, for Virginia Tech, they're all sociology majors. In Florida State, they're all criminal justice majors. They've found the track, and it's one program. At Ole Miss, it is indeed criminal justice. And all the poor black football players are majoring in criminal justice. And great tribute to Michael is that he has actually got engaged with his studies. And he quit the criminal justice program 6 months ago and announced that because he was such a good writer, he was going to embark on a journalism career after he finished playing in the NFL. So he went into
anyway, as you could tell, Michael Lewis really loves black people. Such great respect for black athletes. And respect for Ole Miss, who his good friend Sean Tuohy and Leanne Tuohy are boosters. Who made a lot of money off of a poor black man. Who made a lot of money off of Ole Miss. It's really interesting that Lewis, who's also done other books like Hardball and ones that have become adapted into other movies, as was confirmed and shown in Colin in Black and White, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, might get a slap on the wrist from one of the streamers for this one, but the NFL is a slave trading organization where you have your owners and you have your slave class. Combine, if you look at it, and if you haven't watched Colin in Black and White, I highly recommend checking it out, because it shows basically a side by side of what the slaves had to go through in regards of inspections and the combine. And it all goes back to the fact that everyone's questioning Michael only coming out this year. Well, there's no way he didn't know. Well, there's no way, if he was this smart, there's no way he wouldn't have known this. Or, oh, I can't believe it's already, oh, he's doing it for publicity. He's doing it for his book tour. You know what? If he is, good for him. 100% good for him. Because this man has been exploited by the Toohey family for decades. Been exploited by the sport of football for decades. So if Michael used the timing of filing this document to be removed from conservatorship in the bonus of gaining publicity for his current book tour, bravo, Michael. 100% behind you, buddy. You deserve everything you get, because you've worked so hard in your life, and even harder because of the Tuohys. They claim that they helped him out, and yes, they provided some support, but they didn't help out a homeless black man. They assisted a diamond in the rough. They assisted a person once he had the basic necessities taken care of, could excel. And that's the key. If you can look at someone in poverty, and this is what we're looking at, because people in poverty don't have the money to do what they want or do what they're actually good at. If we know people that are in poverty, that are artists, that are musicians, any sort of, or athletes, and we can lend a hand to them so they succeed, then do it. Because that's how we have a successful society. And don't do it because you want something from it. You do it because it's the right thing to do. 100%, Mr. Jesko. Slave owners help slaves, colonial paternalism. And it wasn't until at the start of the pandemic when I came across a brilliant documentary series done by a couple of members of the Golden Majority here in Canada, called Black History. And I had no idea that the history was so. I had inklings that the history was as bad as it was, but I had no idea that the slave owners that we had here in Canada. Because all we get is this maple washed version of history where Laura Secord helped the indigenous, where we had the Underground Railroad that brought people to Canada. Feel good stories for a heritage moment. But in actuality, it's maple washing. It's to make the country of Canada look better than it is. There's a group of us that are the solidarity with integrity. There is that we're talking about evil countries. And I came up with a top 10 list. And after discussion, I had North Korea at the bottom at number 10, but I didn't have Australia. And after it was brought up to the fact that Australia has provided support in the US in regards to exploitation and the crushing of different places they've invaded, I put Australia number 2. North Korea was moved right off the list. However, Canada's on that list. And we all know who number 1 is. Number 1 is the United States. So with those, looking at that aspect, we went a little off the rails here, but talking about the exploitation of and the white Christian capitalism, the whole piece. This is white Christian capitalism. This is how the white Christians do capitalism. There is no difference between the Toohey family or the Gemstones. The only difference is the Gemstones can sing and can gather people more through a church as opposed to gathering people utilizing a exploitation of their foundation. It's the only difference. Same thing, same exploitation, same money grab, all about brand, all about under the guise of caring and kindness under Christianity, which is a way to gain more power, influence, and cash without having to pay a lot of taxes on it. But again, there's no document saying that they're doing it directly, but we provided enough evidence in the documents that we provided that were from the IRS of connection to Sean Toohey's business empire and the donations going into the foundation. Because we all know when a charity asks for a donation, it's because it's 100% tax deductible. And dollars to donuts, they don't mention it here, but there's probably a very good connection to some sort of church or Christian organization to ensure the nonprofit status. I leave that alone. Like and subscribe all across the board. We've got merchandise, some great merchandise. I'm very excited about that because, well, like I said, one of my passions is designing merch. And when I come up with some cool graphics or some cool designs, I really want to share them. So with the newest one, I really wanted to show everyone what we designed, because old Muskie's not sharing any of our stuff because, well, I called him a piece of shit. Regardless, we'll share it here. Here you go. So if you look here, it is Capitalism. Is, and we got a picture of the White House, so it's white, maple, charity, green, washed, exploitation for profit. And those are 15-ounce coffee mugs, ceramic mugs, great in the dishwasher or microwave. Do not lose their luster. Hold a nice amount of coffee, more than 2 cups. So it's one of those things, and all proceeds go to the show. And then we also have, if you rather have it on a t-shirt, $21.97. We had the long weekend sale. We were keeping it up because we still have those things, and sized up to 3XL. So you can get, if you the shirts themselves, if you normally wear an XL, we always say size up because they're very comfortable. They're a next level tri-blend unisex tee. And why we use next level? Because they are ethically produced. So no sweatshops, no exploitation of labor. All our products are produced by our distribution center, which is located in Canada, in Toronto, Ontario, and in the United States in Columbus, Ohio. And it is an Iranian family owned operation. So, like we said, we got some other stuff there. Invisible Illness is a mind fuck. Proud to be everything capitalists hate. Dragon Dad, because I'm a dragon dad of 2 children, even though my oldest is 21, is still my child. In the 2S community, and normalize mental health as health. And of course, capitalism is bad. People portrayed as good people because they have money. And if that doesn't say everything we need to say about the Tui family, I don't know what does. Again, like, subscribe, take a look at some of the other stuff. Be sure to check out Michael's book. Link is in the description. Check out his Instagram page where he's updating his tour, and support his foundation because, well, shit. Enough people have supported the Tuies in life. It's time that Michael Orr has some support from people that actually care about fellow humans. Thanks for joining us. We don't know when the next episode is going to be. We're working on a project. We're looking at doing a deep dive into the nonprofit sector. I've worked in the nonprofit sector. Nonprofit is another path to capitalism. If people don't understand that, I actually work for Canadian Blood Services, and I have a horror story to tell all of you. But we have to make sure that it's legally, that we're not going to be charged with anything. Same thing, the Tuies have all these lawyers. Everything we said was documented. So there's no defamation of character. There's no accusations of any sort of thing. Everything was just providing the information to our supporters and our viewers and let you decide. And yeah, so thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time. Check out our other comrades there. Links are in our subscriptions. And yeah, you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.